Okay, section 5.6 on linear functions, on lines. We're going to talk about parallel lines and perpendicular lines today. So if you're watching from home, you want to pause the video to make sure that you get these terms written down, because I'm not going to leave it on this page very long for those of you at home. Parallel lines. We have an example over here. Okay, they're lines that never intersect, but they would have the same slope. If you were to look at this line, it might go up 1 over 1. This one also would go up 1 over 1. They're going to have the exact same slope. So if I tell you one of these lines has a slope of 7 over 8, up 7 over 8, then the other line also has a slope of 7 over 8. They have to have the same slope. If they don't, they would cross. Now, perpendicular lines is different. Looking at that, perpendicular lines, they intersect at a 90-degree angle. If you look in the corners of the room are usually, for most rooms, they're usually 90 degrees. And they're an example of perpendicular lines. So they're two lines that when they intersect in their corner, they make a 90-degree angle. Now here, the slopes are opposite reciprocals, and they give an example here. One of them is 3, which would be the same as 3 over 1. And remember what a reciprocal is. It flips it. So one of them, if it's 3 over 1 and positive, then the other one is negative. That's what the word opposite means. One of them has to be negative. One of them has to be positive. And the other one is flipped over, 1 over 3. So it's that simple. If they have that relationship, one positive, one negative. And you think about it, if one's a positive line, one's a negative line, they can cross, right? But then they have to have this exact relationship of a reciprocal as well. So we'll talk about that. That's the idea today. Okay, so this one says determine if the graphs are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, and what they are. So what we have to do, we have to put them in a certain form. Over here, this one, y equals 4/5 x minus 8. That one's in a certain form. It's in y equals mx plus b form. And we can already tell what m would be. M would be 4/5. Good. This one over here is not in that form. It's close, but the y has something by it. It has a 4, so we're going to divide by 4 to get rid of it. So we'll divide by 4 on each of these problems, or each of these numbers. So this gets us y equals. Remember, in this form, you want it to be y equals. So that's why we're getting rid of the 4. And then we get negative 5 over 4 plus 3. Whoops, and I need an x. So in this one, m is negative 5 over 4. Now that brings up this new relationship that we're talking about. One of the slopes is negative. This one's negative. And one of the slopes is positive. This one's positive. And then do you notice how one of them is 5 over 4 and the other one's flipped, 4 over 5. So the relationship here for these is that they're perpendicular. So you can write the word perpendicular, or you can use this as the symbol. The symbol for perpendicular in geometry is that. It looks like an upside down T, but what it means is they're crossing at those 90-degree angles. So if you put that, I would accept that as being perpendicular. But that's what we're trying to determine. All right, the next one. This one, we already know m. M is 3 divided by 4, because it's mx plus b, so we're just identifying m. The other one, we got to do a little work. So we have to put this in the correct form, so I'm going to subtract 4x first. We get negative 3y equals negative 4x plus 9. Said the right word, but wrote the wrong thing. Plus 9. Now we want to get y by itself, so we'll divide by negative 3. A negative divided by negative gets us a positive 4 over 3. A positive divided by a negative gets us a negative 3. So for this one, m is 4 over 3. Now on the first slide that we talked about, to be parallel, they have the same slope. These numbers, are they the same, yes or no? Are they exactly the same? No. They're reciprocals. They're flipped. Now, if they're flipped, they could be perpendicular, but one has to be positive, one has to be negative. They're both what? They're both positive. So the answer is, in this case, they're neither. Okay? They're not parallel. They're not perpendicular. It has to have the perfect relationship in some way. So this one, it's just a, nope, neither thing. They would be intersecting lines. They'd be lines like this. They're both positive, and somewhere they intersect, but they're not at a 90-degree angle, because that angle would be way off. Okay? All right, next one. To get y by itself, what will we need to do in the first equation? Divide by 6. Good. So, y equals negative 1/6 x. And you're like, where'd the 1 come from? Remember, there's always a 1 plus 1. So here, m is negative 1/6. On this one, m's already there, and it is negative 1/6. Are they exactly the same this time for m? Yep. So that means the lines are? Nope. So, somebody said it. Parallel. Good. Okay. So if they're the same, exactly the same, they're parallel. If they're flipped and one's positive, one's negative, if they're opposite reciprocals, is what we call that, then they're perpendicular. Okay. Now, secondary step. Now we got to learn to write equations of the lines. We did this a little bit. Write an equation that is parallel to the given line and goes through the given point. So first of all, this is the line. The slope of this line would be 2, because that m is 2. Now we're bringing back something that we did a while back. We haven't done this for a little while. But if you remember, y equals mx plus b, we're going to take some things in this problem and we're going to replace it. Instead of m, I'm going to put in a 2. Instead of y and x, I'm going to take this, because they've given me an x and a y that I can substitute in. So for y, I'm going to put in negative 1, because that's the y coordinate. For x, I'm going to put in negative 3. So what I get is negative 1 equals 2 times negative 3 plus b. Negative 1 equals negative 6 plus b. I will add 6, and b is 5. Now if I have an m, I have a b, I can write my equation. Y equals m times x plus b. And notice I put in the m of 2 and the b of 5. And that's the equation we're looking for. So everybody remember doing this before, hopefully, right? But now we're matching something a little different. And how do we start with the slope? We started because it's parallel, and parallel lines have the same slope. I'll need to go back if I need to. All right. This next one. Write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that is parallel. So again, parallel means same slope. So first we figure out the slope here. Now I'm going to do this one like I've done the other ones. Y equals M times X plus B. Okay, we're going to put some different things in. You can write this or you can substitute it as you go. We already know M. M is 2/3. It's got to have the same slope, so I'm going to put 2/3 here. Instead of X, what's the value of X?
12.
Good. Instead of Y, what's our value of Y?
5.
Very good. Now, how do I multiply this? This is 2/3 times 12. So I'm going to bring up the calculator. We're going to do 2/3 times 12. Now, if you're home, you might have to do it on your calculator, your computer, or your Chromebook. But I'm going to take in here, I'm going to look at it again, 2/3. There's a button on here if you're using one of my calculators, and it's Control Divide. It puts up a little fraction, so I can put 2/3. And I've seen some of you use this already. That's very good. And then times 12, and it'll get you the answer. That ends up being 8. Okay, so when you're here, use the calculator. This is 8 plus B. Now we want to figure out B, so we subtract 8. And -3 is our B. So Y equals 2/3 X minus 3. The goal, you always want to look, what was our goal? Our goal is to write an equation of a line, and we've got that once we get the M and the B. Tell me to back up if I need to. All right, this one says write an equation that is parallel. Okay, so again, parallel lines have the same slope. So this is X, this is Y. I'm going to just start by saying Y equals M times X, which is 3, plus B. And I went a little faster there. Hopefully that's starting to make some sense. I'm trying to figure out this equation, so I got to figure out B. I already have M, because if it's parallel, they have the same slope. -1 equals -12 plus B. I'm going to add 12. 11 is B. There's M. There's B. I've just substituted it into the equation. Thumbs up, starting to get it? Middle? Okay. Thumbs up, some. Okay. All right, now we're going to shift gears, though. We're going to go to a perpendicular one, I think. So now perpendicular, they're not going to be the same slope. So we have to go opposite reciprocals. So we're going to flip these. So here, first of all, the slope. The slope is 1/3. But this time it wants the lines not to be the same. So we can't use this M. We have to get a different M. So we need a new slope. The new slope, we'll take this number and flip it. And since this is positive, it's got to be negative. So our new slope is -3. Because of the word perpendicular. Perpendicular lines don't have the same slope. We flip it and change the sign. It's opposite. Now we do the same stuff. Y equals mx plus b. Our y is 4. Our m is -3. It's not going to be the 1/3 because it's different. It's a reciprocal and negative. Our x is going to be 2. But we find b the same way. We just finished this equation. 4 equals -6 plus b. We add 6. And b is 10. So y equals -3x plus 10. We then put in our m as -3 and our b as 10. Next one. It says it's perpendicular. Here's the slope. The slope is 2. Now you say, where'd the 1 come from? We can always put it over 1, but I'm putting it over 1 so that when we flip it, we understand. So we need a new slope. Everybody in here, write what you think the new slope will be for our equation. What do you think it'll be? Write it down. Let's see if you're getting it. Anybody think they got it? Don't say your name, but you can say the slope. -1/2. You got to flip it. Okay? So that's our new slope. So now, this is x, this is y. Y equals -1/2 times x plus b. -8 equals -0.5 plus b. Y equals -1/2 x, subtract 7.5. One more. Perpendicular. This is the old slope, -1/4. Write down what you think is the new slope because it says the word perpendicular. Another 2 seconds, and I'm going to ask for it. What do you think it is? +4/1, and we can just write it as 4. That was correct. 4/1, because it's positive. It's always the opposite. Since this was negative, this was positive, and then it's 4/1. Good. Now, can you take this, and you take x and y, and can you put them in and figure out b? And you're like, I'm still not getting that part. Well, let's see if I can help you out. You got to replace y. So instead of y, we're putting in, we're not putting in x. Putting in 5. Because see, that's 5 is y. Instead of m, 4, because that's over here. Times 2 plus b, and then you're going to figure it out because x is 2. Good job. 5 equals 8 plus b. Subtract 8. B is -3. Y equals, then you write the equation. You put in m and you put in b. This is like what we did back in the first lesson. Y equals 4x subtract 3.
Go back to 3a.
Yep.